Hey, what's up, guys? So, this is X once again. Welcome to episode 5 of Series Recap. Man, oh man, did we end the first round on such a high note? Because the Mavs Clippers series was probably the longest first round series I've ever seen in a while, bro. But before I get into it, if you guys don't subscribe right now, I'm not going to be your best friend. Why did I say that? That was so horrible. But if you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. And be sure to check out my previous two videos. My video on the Lakers and the Blazers. And then episode 3 was basically me covering the rest of the other first round series that just wrapped up. So, yeah, check those two out because those videos did not perform well. But let's dive into it. If y'all didn't know, the first two games of the Clippers Mavs series influenced me to make my very first episode series recap. Now, had those two losses at home not happened, I would have made my first episode more than likely about the Miami Heat because they were the first team to get knocked off the map. And episode 2 was basically me talking about how they sucked. In my first video, I talked about how the Clippers were down bad and terrible because of a lot of this switching that Tyronn Lue did. In the series, Kawhi was not the main defender on Luka. You feel me? Like, they had Reggie Jackson and Patrick Beverley, and they switched with Zubac on him. And that was obviously a mistake, and it caused Pat Beverley to basically be doghouse for the entire series. And Zubac got his playing time limited. So Tyronn Lue heard me when I said that, yo, Zubac is my guy, but he deserved to get benched. And, lo and behold, he has not played as much. Sure, he's still playing, but he's not the center. But here's something that I found interesting after the first two games. So after game 3, the Clippers decided to go fully small, right? They had Jackson, Paul George, Kawhi, Morris, and Batum as a small ball 5. And the reason why they did that is because 4 of them, which are Batum, PG, Kawhi, and Morris, you switch those guys on to Luka, and it can tire him out. You feel me? Like, Jackson is an okay defender, but he's pretty small. So, yeah. But yeah, even after all that, Luka still averaged 35 and damn near 36 a game, playing almost all 40. Wait, what? 48? He shot. Well, hold on. Let me backtrack because I completely fucked up my wording right there. So Luka averaged 36 off damn near 49% shooting, 39% from 3, and he shot very abysmal from the free throw line, bro. Like, the best game he had shooting the free throws is game 6, where he had 29 and he shot 5 for 5 from the line. But in this series, he was absolutely horrible. I think, as someone said, he was putting up Shaq-like numbers, and Shaq was not a good free throw shooter, bro. Like, he was so abysmal from the line. But in game 7, that I guess that didn't matter because let's say he still hit 4 more free throws, it would have been an 11-point loss rather than a 15-point loss. But this series was really phenomenal. Luka played out of his mind. And after the first 2 games, though, this is what I realized about the Mavs. After the first 2 games, the supporting cast completely dropped off. And it was almost like Luka had no help, especially with a guy like Kristaps Porzingis. And here's the problem that I have with KP, the same problem that I have with Anthony Davis this whole season, even though I never made a video about it. Kristaps Porzingis is 7'3", 240, bro. Right? Why the hell is he hanging out on the perimeter all the time? Now, yes, I can credit the Clippers defense and their defenders with guys like Reggie Jackson. Well, not Reggie Jackson, with more specifically Paul George, Kawhi, Batum, and all those guys. But look, bro, he's 7'3", 240. He should be able to shoot over these guys, and he should not just be hanging out on the perimeter. Like, there were a few plays in games 5, 6, and 7, and even the first 2 games and game 4, where he had a lot of plays drawn up for him, And most of his shots came inside the basket, and he did a lot of cutting too. Like in game 4, for example, he did not shoot well from three. He was 0 for 2, but all his 18 points came from 7 of 12 shooting. Having said all of that, Porzingis still played horrible. Like, dude was playing like he was, what, Roy Hibbert at times? Like, why the hell is he out there? And he cannot be a big guy and only average 5 rebounds a game, bro. Like, what the hell are you doing? Tim Hardaway Jr. in this series was absolutely phenomenal. All right. In the first 2 games, he shot the hell out of the ball, shooting 5 for 9 from 3 in game 1, 6 for 8 in game 2. He basically looked like Steph Curry out there. Or Tim Hardaway Sr., the great Tim Hardaway, if he had Steph Curry's jump shot. After that, game 3, he did fine, but he only had 12 points. The rest of the series, he completely dropped off. He was 0 for 4 in game 4, 3 of 10 in game 3, which is not bad, but not really ideal. He was okay in game 6. He had 23, shooting 4 from 11 from 3, which is 36%, but again, not good enough. And he was absolutely horrible in game 7. But even then, Hardaway played pretty well for what it's worth. And then, can we talk about Dorian Finney-Smith, bro? Dorian Finney-Smith is actually one of the more underrated defenders on the team. Like, I know we have guys like Jay Crowder and PJ Tucker, but Dorian Finney-Smith is that same type of dude, bro. Like, the kid showed a lot of heart this series, and he did a pretty damn good job defending guys like Kawhi and Paul George. And I'll get to how phenomenal Kawhi was this whole series, more specifically after games 5 and 6. But Dorian Finney-Smith, he's a reliable defensive player, and I think he is a keeper, and same with Tim Hardaway Jr. And Kristaps Porzingis, I'm starting to see why New York traded him. Because I know Porzingis had dealt with injury prior to him being traded in Dallas, but he's 3 years off that injury. Remember, he sat out the whole 2018-19 season. And then, yeah, obviously, Kristaps Porzingis was injured in the first round last year, where it went to game 6. And a lot of people were saying that, look, if Porzingis was healthy, the Clippers would have been beaten in round 1. Now, with the way how they fell against Dallas in game 4 with the Luka game winner, and how they went down against the Denver Nuggets after leading 3-1, that's a valid case. But this year was actually a year to prove that, because minus Seth Curry, the Mavs had a chance, had plenty of chances to close the series. And I was talking about it with my friends and my dad about this. Game 6 was supposed to be their game 7, right? And I told them, if the Mavs don't win game 6, they're not going back to LA and try to steal a 4th game, right? So they had to win game 6 in Dallas, because I knew they were not going to win in the Clippers' house for a 4th time, especially with how Kawhi played. Again, I'll get to him in a minute. But can we talk about Boban for a sec, y'all? Who knew that Boban would look like a mother effing stud this series? Now, look, everybody loves Boban, okay? If you don't like Boban, you're a Hall of Fame school threat, as Flight would say. But Boban was actually pretty good this series, bro. Now, was his defense good? Debatable. But every time he was in, it felt like the Mavs got a good amount of life. Like, I don't know why, but Boban reinserted some energy into this Dallas squad. Except for game 7, obviously, because, he had 14 and 10. But, Boban is Boban, and yeah, that's it. But for real, y'all, now let's get to the LA side of things. All right. In my description after the game 2 loss, I made a joke about LA our way, or we run LA. Yeah, y'all about to run Kawhi out of LA to San Francisco or Miami. Oh man, I kind of regret that now, but Kawhi absolutely played out of his mind this whole damn series, bro. 32 points a game, 61% shooting, 43% from three. So 60, 40, 90, bro. Man, Reggie Jackson said it, the baddest man on the planet. Now, even though I'm a Laker fan, I still got love for Kawhi, bro. Kawhi is one of my top three favorite players in the league right now. The other two being obviously LeBron and Kevin Durant. But after the game 5 loss, it looked like Kawhi was done. 7 to 19, 20 points. He was absolutely horrible, inexcusably horrible. And he responded. He responded the last two games. He scored 45 in game 6, which looked like Toronto Raptor Kawhi Leonard, where he would drop 30 a game off really solid efficiency. And he was clutch all over, bro. And one of the things about Kawhi, too, is that even though he put 32 a game, a lot of people are criticizing him and to a certain extent Paul George, especially Paul George, for not taking the challenge and guarding Luka Doncic. Yeah, no typo. I actually said Luka Doncic. Thank you, Flight. But where there were times when Kawhi did guard Luka, I want to say Luka Doncic again because I actually like saying that. But no, the times Kawhi did guard Luka, Luka was basically shut down. Kawhi as the primary defender on Luka was a nightmare for him. You know what I mean? Like, I know Luka still had a phenomenal series, but whenever Kawhi was switched on to him, Kawhi basically just destroyed him defensively. And there were times where Luka was guarding Kawhi, and Kawhi just basically, gave him a bucket over his head. But the thing about the Clippers too, unlike the Mavs, the supporting cast actually played pretty well. Like, bro, Bobby Shmurda, aka Reggie Jackson. No, not that Reggie Jackson, not the OG Mr. October. Yeah, that Reggie Jackson, the one who looks like Bobby Shmurda. He averaged 15 a game off of really great shooting splits, bro. Minus game 1. Game 1, he was horrible. Game 2, he was alright, I guess. He had 15 points. And I could say I debunked myself when I said after game 2, why the hell is Rondo not on the floor? Rondo is a championship caliber point guard, right? So why are you sitting him for long stretches of the game where he should be in it? And after the last 5 games of the series, I could see why. Reggie put up 25 points in game 6. Reggie was basically lining him up. Like, I didn't know Reggie had it in his bag. Like, he never did any of this with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. And there was like a video that was talking about this, bro, where Jackson did not want to take a back seat. Like, remember, this was when KD, Ibaka, Russ, and Reggie were young guys. So I guess that makes some sort of sense because when you're young and all that, and you're playing with one of the best players at the time, and at the time he was the MVP in 2014, you just feel like, you know what, I don't want to be second fiddle to guys like Russ and KD, but Jackson is 30 and now he's willing to mature and embrace a 6-man role and be Lou Williams' replacement because now people were starting to wonder after the Hawks won that series against the Knicks. A lot of people were wondering if the Clippers did screw up with the Rondo trade. And because you lose a prolific scorer in Lou Williams, who has been your most reliable scorer, and where's the offense going to come from? And Jackson, Morris, and Rondo completely proved that in the last 5 games, minus the first 2, right? Even in the game 5 loss, like, both teams sold their bags. Like, the Mavs at one point in that game led by 10, and the Clippers basically went on a furious run, bro. But it wasn't enough because Terrence Mann just was completely indecisive, and Batum missed the layup. And Kawhi airballed a three trying to recreate that Game 7 shot versus Philly when he was in Toronto. But that's neither here nor there. Well, it kind of is here or there. But yeah, fuck you know what I'm trying to say. Bobby Schmurder was very incredible. He was playing really great defense, and he was a very reliable offensive weapon. So the Clippers have found their Lou Williams replacement in Reggie and somewhat Rondo. And after I posted my rant about the Clippers after game 2, it turns out Serge Ibaka was hurt, so that's why he only got 5 minutes of playing time. Now, had Serge Ibaka been playing, maybe the Clippers was still one at home early. You feel me? Like, Serge Ibaka is very pivotal to their defense, and they're going to need him and Zubac against Rudy Gobert and company, right? So hopefully Serge is okay because I did pick the Clippers to win in 7 despite the fact I'm a Laker fan. I'm going to say they'll win the series in 7, and I'm betting on them to win the series, but that don't mean I'm rooting for them. But I am giving the Clippers their fair credit. And can we talk about Pandemic P, Paul George, PG-13, George Paul? Paul George was not meme worthy this series. Like, Paul George was not meme worthy. Okay? He played above average, but the thing is, he's going to go into the series against Utah, where the last time he was in a playoff game in Utah, bro had 5 points off a 2 for 7 shooting, while Russell Westbrook had 46 points off 43 shots. So Paul George was basically ineffective, and Russ had to take all the shots. Yes, he did get fouled on a 3 that they did not call, but the thing is, if you're not putting up as much points as people expected you to and force a game 7 in that series, then why the hell even bother calling it? And it didn't help Carmelo Anthony was shit that series too. But Paul George in this series actually played pretty above average. Like, I didn't want to say he played well because in game 6, Paul George had 5 turnovers, a couple of bad shots too. But Paul George was nearly becoming playoff P once again. You feel me? But in the fourth quarter of game 6, he played pretty well and he hit a couple big shots. And this whole series, he never had a game where he scored under 20 points. So it wasn't like Paul George played great, but he did not play to a point where everyone would ridicule him. Similar to the Denver Nuggets series last year, and even in the series against Utah, where obviously he called himself playoff P back then. So in the series against Utah, Paul George has to play better. Period. Like, scoring 23 points a game off a decent efficiency is just the bare minimum. And keep it a buck. Paul George shot 6 for 10 from the free throw line. That is 60%. And luckily, those free throws did not come back to haunt the Clippers. Okay, I know he was phenomenal in 2019 and in the series against Portland, and that loss was not his fault. It was just the whole team being inconsistent as hell and Westbrook being inconsistent as hell. But Paul George averaging 23 points a game is almost the bare minimum. Like, we wanted him to play above average. We wanted him to play like he does in the regular season, because in the regular season, bro was averaging like 28 points a game or some shit like that, being one of the better shooters in the league. And in the playoffs, he completely goes George Paul or PG 13%. And he was able to turn around a bit, but there were times where I was about to be ready to post Clipper memes, more specifically Paul George memes, because George at stretches played terrible. But Paul George actually played decent this series. But he needs to play better than decent if the Clippers have a chance against Utah, because Rondo is fine. Reggie Jackson, I have a good feeling that he'll do his thing. Batum, I have a good feeling that he will do his thing, especially a guy against Donovan Mitchell. Morris was pretty decent. Like, he was like kind of on and off. But you get what I mean? Rondo, yeah. All those guys, I bet they'll do their thing. But it's Paul George who is the key player in that series. And he cannot afford to choke this one and play at a bare minimum. I do expect to see better play from Paul George because, again, there were times in this series where Paul George nearly costed the Clippers the series. But this series was so goddamn crazy, bro. Like, up until game 7, no home team has ever won in a playoff series up until game 7. Now, if you want to argue that the Raptors Celtics series last year in the bubble counts, then yeah, it'd be 2 years in a row since that happened. But the difference is that was in a bubble setting, not in an actual home game setting. It would be crazy as shit if it actually happened, though, had the virus not hit our shores, in the graceful words of Barack Obama. But, anyways, this series was absolutely crazy, and I did not expect it to turn around the way it did. Like, after game 2, everyone was ready for, Kawhi to just get up and leave for, like, Golden State and Miami, which there's a possibility he still could if they absolutely shit the bed against the Jazz. But, but I think this year is truly their shot. Okay? Like, do I think the Clippers will win the championship? Absolutely the hell not. I picked the Brooklyn Nets or the Milwaukee Bucks over the Clippers. But I do feel like they do have a chance to shut every Clipper hater up, myself included. Like, I'm giving their credit right now, but take this with a grain of salt. This is just me congratulating the Clippers for not choking the series, and for everyone, and this is also me congratulating everyone for actually doing their part after the first horrendous 2 games. That don't mean I ain't gonna switch up my tune in this Jazz series, because I could completely go south and completely mock them and diss them like I usually do. But then again, my Lakers are not in the playoffs. But like I said, we'll be back next year, and we're still the best team in LA, 17-0. So there's that. But the interesting thing, though, I want to get to Coach Tyronn Lue. I've seen him coach the Cavs, obviously. That series against Golden State in the finals does not count. I'm talking about the 2016 series, because that was a testament to LeBron and Kyrie's greatness than Tyronn Lue being an actual fucking head coach, bro. In this series, games 3, 4, 6, and 7 were the best job he's ever done coaching an actual basketball team. Like, the dude actually made adjustments and pushed the right buttons. Like, when Zua and Bev were getting cooked, he said, nah, bro, I'm sitting both of y'all down and I can put guys in there that actually know what the hell they're doing, bro. Like, even when the Dallas Mavs went big, they still went small, and it actually worked out for them. And it's kind of similar to what the Rockets with Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and PJ Tucker, Robert Covington, Jeff Green, all those guys, blah blah blah. It's kind of like what they did against us, but the only difference is that small ball did not work because Anthony Davis and LeBron were still getting to the paint at will, and we were able to run circles around their small ball defense. Right? In this series, the Mavs did not take advantage of shot blocking, or of a lack of shot blocking, excuse me. Because I know this is a jump shooting team that has pretty good defenders. And speaking of which, I don't know why Jay Rich didn't get enough clock this series. I feel like he should have had more playing time in this series. Because in Game 7, he had 7 minutes. Game 6, probably the same amount of minutes. So Jay Rich did not play much as opposed to as opposed to his minutes being distributed in Miami and Philly last year. But that's a whole nother topic. And the Mavs going big, I don't want to say it killed them, because Boban did have a good series, and Cauley Stein, he didn't get any clock at all in Game 7 from what I saw. And he did get some clock in Game 5, and he was pretty good then with some good defensive plays and some good timely baskets. But overall, going big was actually hurting the Mavs a bit, because Porzingis is not a good defender. Boban, as much as I love him, he's not all that. Like I said, he's very questionable defensively. He does have some plays here and there, and he played pretty well this series. But just like what we did to the Rockets small ball last year with AD and LeBron, the Clippers going small ran circles around their bigger lineups and took advantage of their lack of defense when it comes to Luka and KP and somewhat of Boban. And the Clippers were able to get baskets inside, right? But the thing about it too, though, bro, the Clippers were hitting their jump shots. Reggie was hitting his shots, bro. And Kawhi obviously was a machine. Paul George was hitting shots from the perimeter. Like, almost all the Clippers shots, and I'm talking about more specifically in games 5, 6, and 7, most of their shots were jump shots. There were some in the paint, and they got some really good dunks, but the Clippers were able to expose their defense. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know why the hell I'm dragging this on, but basically, the Clippers going small killed the Dallas Mavericks' big lineup because Boban's not athletic and KP's not. Well, he was athletic, but that injury kind of hobbled him, and you know what I mean? Like, yeah, the Clippers small ball worked, but the question I do have though, and this is basically the obvious answer: will the Clippers small ball work against the Utah Jazz? Absolutely not. With Rudy Gobert, he's able to eliminate shots inside the paint, and he's not going to make it easy for guys like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Obviously, Mike Conley is a great defender, and they have defenders that can shield Donovan Mitchell, like Royce O'Neal, Joe Ingles. Bojan Bogdanovic is a decent defender. Like, he's not known for that, but he is a good defensive player. So definitely, if the Clippers do win this series, which I'm picking them in this sense, I ain't rooting for them, but I'm picking them to win this series in 7. It ain't gonna be easy because Utah's too good of a defensive team to just simply just roll over and die like that. And one last thing before I go, and I'm gonna try to make this as quick as possible. Luka's gonna grow up in this after this series. And I don't mean grow up in a bad way, like, you know, how your parents tell you, like, grow up, kid, or some shit like that. Luka's gonna really flourish after this series because he's gonna use this as motivation to become better. And he even said it that you get paid to win. So he hasn't really proven much yet. But what I can say is that this is the beginning of a stellar career for a guy like Luka Doncic. And I feel like he'll be MVP in one of these next upcoming seasons. And I'll be sure that he'll win it within one of those next upcoming seasons. So Luka has a lot of time to grow. His feel for the game will get better. His defense definitely needs some work because he was getting cooked all series. I know he's not, athletic and fast and very pesky, but if he could be a smart team defender, like let's say Chris Paul, Luka is going to be probably one of the best, if not the best players in the league for years to come. So I'm really excited to see the future of this Dallas team because it's looking very bright, and this series will assure us that. But anyways, that's enough of me talking about this series in particular. This was a great series overall. It was absolutely amazing between the back and forth between Luka and Kawhi, and just the role players taking turns stepping up. It was a beautiful series overall. Pause. I don't know if my mic's picking that up, but there's a plane outside my house. But yeah, man, that's basically it for y'all. Thank you for God. Thank you for God. Well, I thank God every day, but you know what I'm saying. But thank you guys for watching another episode of Series Recap. Again, this series is not meant to be a game-by-game broadcast, a game-by-game recap, a game-by-game recap, you feel me? This is just more of, obviously, like I said, playoff series recap. Me explaining what went down in the series and what happens after. I mean, you guys get the gist. Like, comment, and subscribe. Whatever the hell I said at the beginning of the video. That's the end of this video. I'm X. Deuces. Clippers, if you guys choke this series, I swear to God. I swear to God, fam.